All right, guys, so I can't wait to talk about today's topic, golf, faith, life, family. We were talking, Brian, not too long ago about doing a show, and I know you absolutely love golf, got me into golf, got my whole family. Now my 2 older boys are just diehard about it. So we wanted to create a show, and I'm so thankful, Sanj, for coming joining us today.
Absolutely.
We don't know each other a whole really, really well, but I know you've got some kids that have played in college, right?
Yep.
I met your daughter actually at his house and found out. Why don't you tell me, like, she played, she had a scholarship? Like,
She did, yeah. So grew up here in Charlotte and started this journey when she was 4 years old, which is pretty amazing, right?
That's
you know,
amazing.
and she obviously stuck with it and had the benefit to play college golf at Stanford University, which I know your son's down there.
My
now.
son is now a Stanford guy.
I know,
So.
what a beautiful.
And it was so great when he had committed, and this, I don't remember when we met. I met your daughter, but it was maybe earlier in the summer or way long ago. And we were chatting, and I was like, all right, you know, she's done, right?
Yep.
And I was like, tell me about the school. Because I'd never even heard about it before, you know, my son was like, I want to go there.
Right.
And I'm like, is it good? Like, is it a bubble like Liberty? You know, is there a religious, you know, or is there a God focus? You know, is there on campus, is the popular thing to love Jesus or to run from Jesus? So I like, she didn't even know me.
Yeah.
And I just went in for the kill. I'm like,
She's like,
she was
awesome.
probably like, who's that guy? But she was awesome.
Yeah.
And you could just see the exuberance on her
Yeah.
face and the love for Samford, and you know, she got her head on straight. I mean, you've done a really, really great job.
Yeah, great culture, and she's a great ambassador for the university.
Yes,
and she
I
had
caught that up
She
right
had a
away.
great experience, but she's done now, and that was a heavy 4 years. But loves the game of golf, and you know, this journey with her, and obviously my son plays a ton now, and he knows your boys, and they played a lot together with Brian and his boys. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah,
That's awesome. So what we want to do today is we're going to take the game of golf, everything from the tee box, fairways, you know, roughs, bunkers, hazards, you know, greens and regulations, the tee and the green, and we want to relate the game of golf back to different situations in our life. And so first up is the tee box. So the tee box, you know, we played this weekend. I don't play a ton, but the when I first walk up, like, you know, you drove up in the cart, you know, I was already out there kind of chipping around, and get up on that tee box, my nerves are just so off the chart because I don't play tons of golf. I don't know. I'd be curious for you guys because you guys have played a lot of golf. I get up there, I'm like, especially when there's like 4, or if you're in a big group and there's a lot of people, and I get up, I'm like, this sucks. You know, what who's going to show up today? You know, right off the tee box. You know, how are you guys, you know?
So I'm probably like you. If I get on the tee box and if it's just me and my buddies, I'm very relaxed and chill just because I know who they are and they probably expect something good or bad out of me, you know. But if I'm in a situation where if I'm playing in some kind of championship or some kind of competitive round, I can always default to my daughter, how nervous she was in any match that she played in college, right? And now she comes back to me and says, now you know how I feel, right? You know, I'm like 100%, you know, my knees are shaking, I'm shaking, but you know, part of it is like, you know, even in the business world for me, like sometimes I'm in front of a big crowd and doing a presentation. I'm nervous, you know, and I come out of the chute that way. And it's the same thing on that tee box. And, you know, sometimes you don't know what's going to come out of your mouth or you don't know what's going to come off that driver head, right? You know, whether I'm going to, you know, start off really strong or start off the morning really strong, whatever that looks like, right? You know, but yeah, there's definitely nerves. That's the number one thing. There's nerves on the tee box, but it's great because it's a mindset, right? You know, and trying to get that prepared to hit that first tee shot.
What about you, Brian?
So I'm going to tell you a twisted story because it's kind of humbling in a way, but we've talked before. Some of you guys know that I modeled for, you know, on the side in life, you know, whatever.
Model.
Just had to put that in there, whatever. But here's the thing about
As you can't tell.
I got to tell you. So the story is that when I played high school and I played a bunch of competitive stuff, I didn't, you know, make any big, like I didn't play big college. I didn't play big events like that. I am as an older person now. But here's the crazy thing. I used to be so nervous. I used to get the same jitters, the same knee knocks, the same like, man, how bad or how good am I going to play today? All this negative talk. There was a time where I was really young and I went through these experiences where you just get picked based on whatever the client wants and you almost have this like anxiety about it. And then somehow walking with my faith in God and just kind of walking through life and experiences, you get over this hump. I do not have fear no matter what the event is anymore. It's absolutely crazy. I don't know why. Maybe it's kind of some of those events that changed my character. Maybe it's a God thing. Maybe it's a life experience thing. And then the guys on TV talk about it all the time. Oh, he's so nervous. Oh, he's so nervous. I'm like, you're like projecting negativity and nervousness into him. Like, it's not that hard. It's the same shot you just hit 25 times, on the driving range.
But nerves aren't necessarily a bad thing.
They're not a bad thing. But how do you control them? How do you make them go away?
I don't
It's
know.
so hard.
When I think of the firsts, looking back to the first time I drove a car, or the first day of college, or walking down the aisle,
Anxiety.
Yeah, and every single one of those, my nerves have always been off the chart, even when it's something familiar. There might be the first time you step up with a tee box, but there's 17 more of them, and then there's 18 more when you play again, or 9 more. So there's always, even though you're familiar and you might have gotten over your nerves, there's those people that can control their nerves and make amazing decisions. And I think on the flip side, there can be people that never get rid of the nerves, and I'm one of those. That's just how God made me. We're at the soccer game last week, and I just remember, I'm looking around, I'm like, I'm so nervous right now, and I'm not even playing. I'm
kicking the
just
ball.
watching. And I'm like, I just want the game to start. And that's just the way God made me. And
same way on the first tee.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's
don't
you
matter.
could just be the starter there. And I'm like, I
I
gotta make sure I hit it right. But whenever I played football, I was fortunate to play quarterback, and I wanted the coach to call a quarterback run every time on the first play. I'm like,
To calm you
let me
down?
just get this first hit in, and then all right,
Really?
cool,
Yeah.
let's go. But yes, I was like, let's run the ball, and I want to get hit, just to be over it.
As a body of men trying to help each other out, or whoever we're helping out, I always remind people there's only 14 drives. It's a mindset, right? You're on that tee box. There's only 14 drives. That's it.
or 14 irons if you're this guy.
If you're, yeah, right.
I don't even like the driver.
Yeah.
So they would carry a driver for the first year.
They worry about the first one. I was like, it's okay. There's not that many shots, right?
Yep.
So think about how do you get your mind prepared? How do you breathe? And little things like that, right?
Before we go on to the next thing, give me some things like when you are nervous, how do you control that? How do you use those nerves to perform better, or to make a better decision, in life? Not necessarily on the golf course, but when you're nervous, watching a Suns game, or you're playing football, or you have a big presentation, or you have something big going on at work, or a big decision to make with your family, should we move? Should I switch jobs? How do you take those nerves and use that to make a better decision?
Yeah. I think for me, the number one thing, and I've always kind of helped my kids through this too, is I always understand Jesus is walking with me.
Yep.
So he's right by my side as I go through anything in life, right? So I've got somebody, and I'm not self-reliant on myself because my brain's going to go wherever it needs to go. And then really mentorship, honestly, a good group of people that can help me kind of unpack a lot of things in life, because if I inherently try to do it on my own, I'm probably going to screw it up, right? So a good, supported, loving wife, right? And a good mentor group, and just knowing that, okay, God's walking with us all the way through this.
I think that, and then echoing or piggybacking on that, slowing down. I've learned to just take an extra breath on that first tee, really, and just try not to crush it. You got 13 more. Just kind of get it out there, get started, and then everything will kind of start rolling. But slow down.
I'm going to agree with Kyle. Slow down. I have never been successful in certain situations. I mean, the outcome might have turned out okay, but I've never been super successful in situations where I'm speeding through everything, like the parenting moment, the family to life decisions, going through it fast, which often happens on the tee, just in golf in general. You're like, next hole, first hole, let's go. Or even if you're on the 10th hole, you're still excited to go to the tee and hit the, your tee ball. But it's everything in life, if you slow down, to your point, if you have the guys that are influencing you, or the group around you, male, female, whatever, wife, I mean, that's because you walk into situations slower, you are less likely to be faster, which, slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. Let me say it again. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Here's the golf teacher.
But if you go into it fast is fast, probably going to run into some problems.
Form gets all broken out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everything. It's just not good.
So for me, when I was first married, making a decision financially by yourself is a lot different than making a decision financially with a spouse.
100%.
And,
couldn't agree more.
Even still to this day.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that was like, yep, I'm with you on that one. So one of the decisions my wife and I made early on in our relationship, in our marriage, is we call it the 24-hour rule. We had a bigger decision to make financially. Let's say we're going to buy a couch. Maybe that was a big decision early. We take 24 hours. We found it. We're like, okay, we love it. This is what we want, but we're not going to buy it now. We're going to wait 24 hours. And that decision to make that, a process, like, hey, we're going to make this purchase, started showing itself up in other ways in our life. So the bigger the decision, the longer the period, because we needed to pray harder over it, look for directions. I mean, the biggest decision that we've ever made was moving here, 15 months. So you talk about slow down. We just flat out stopped, because I was on my journey. She was on her journey. They were in just completely different directions, for most of the time. And we prayed through it. And I would say, for me, using those nerves, it's really it's a piece. It's, I might always be nervous off the tee box, but no matter what happens in how God wanted the result to take place, I'll, until I get that peace, of like, this is what God wants me to do, the nerves are good. Like, that's how God made me. Whether you're calm or you're that's how God made me, but the result is what God wanted. And I think that's kind of what you were getting to. And sometimes if you hit it off to the right, and you're like, am I going to find that? Yeah. Or whatever, but then you're like, you get up there and you're like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Or the times you're like, that was great, and you can't find it.
Yeah.
That's what God wanted.
Right.
Yep. Like because he wanted to teach you something in the struggle or whatever, whether it hits the fairway or not.
Yeah, for sure. It sure is peaceful when you strike it down the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about down the middle, right on the fairway. So the fairway, this would represent the times it's going exactly how you wanted it to go. Whether you meant to hit it that way or it just went that way, because there's sometimes you hit that club and you're like, that didn't sound right, but it sure did go straight, or whatever. Or it started to go that way and then it comes back and you're like, man, wow, that was a really good hit. I wish I could do that every single time. And it's sitting there smack on the fairway. This would represent those times in your life, whether you meant it or not. God is just shining his blessings down on you. How do you respond in those moments? Are you like puffing your chest? Are you excited? Are you humble? Like, where are you at?
Yes.
When things feel good.
All of the above. I think our inherent character is we always want to puff our chest and be proud and be like super excited and
look what I did.
Look how awesome I am.
That was. Yeah.
But that's the hardest thing I think.
Are you more nervous though? So sometimes when I get off the tee box and I hit it right down the middle, I feel like my nerves go up. Because now it's like, okay, I got to do that again. I might have a good lie, but I feel like the pressure starts mounting for me personally. Because I'm like, okay, everybody just saw me do whatever on the box, whether I'm with one guy or many. And I'm like, okay, now I don't want to screw it up because I just had a great drive. Now I got to finish it. Yeah. Whereas I hit into the rough, which we'll talk about next, I'm like, pressure's off. Nobody's expecting me to do anything now.
Right.
Yep. And I got a horrible lie or whatever. And it's like, well, if I hit a good shot, everybody's like, dang. Yeah. So I feel like the more perfect it's going, the harder it is for me. And I will say, I was at C12 last week or 2 weeks ago, and we're going around the table, and everybody's talking about their wheel, and we call it our balance wheel. Yeah. And it's all these different things in life, from your rest, vacations, to your spiritual walk, and to your family, to your fitness and health and nutrition. And we get to this new guy. And he's just like, well, mine doesn't really look like a wheel, and he's like, I don't even think mine will roll, but it's where I'm at. And then the next guy goes after him, who's been in the group for a very long time. He goes, well, I started there. And then he makes a comment so the rest of the group can say, he's like, his looks like a wheel. And he goes, it wasn't always there. And he's like, and then he kind of turned and he says, I'm really scared. He's like, my life is going really good. And he just goes around his wheel and he's like, everything seems to be clicking. And, and he's a part of a prison ministry. And I'm just sitting here listening to him. And this is going to come across the wrong way. And I love this guy. But he was like, I this. And I was sitting there totally judging him as a brother and somebody I love. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, the reason why you're scared is because you're taking ownership of everything that's going on in your life. Like, God is blessing you right now. And he's like, is something about to break or whatever? and that's me in the fairway. You know, where it's like everything
can't hold this up. The weight's getting
and
too much.
it went to a round, and I'm gonna reach out to him, and I just forgot. But you know, for me personally, when I take responsibility or I get arrogant or whatever, I get more nervous because I'm like, this isn't God, this is me. You know, God is the one who put the ball in the fairway because I can't hit consistently, no matter how many times I hit the golf ball.
Yeah.
You know, but when I'm there, it's like, okay, if I'm in the center of God's will, or if I'm like, you know, hey, this is God's hole or God's game, my nerves actually feel a lot different, and I don't even care. You know, like when we're playing this weekend, we had a blast. You know, like it was so much fun. I didn't care what happened. I was goofing off half the time. I didn't want to finish the putt. You know, I was just out there having a great time, and I could care less about what I scored. I didn't even know. You know, when you said whatever, I didn't even care. You know?
But I know it's right.
Sounds great.
No, we didn't write it. We didn't have a scorecard.
That's My dad will ask me to go play. He plays probably 2-3 times a week now, and whenever I'm home, he always wants me to come play. And for me, I'm just like, it's time with him.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
100%.
even my buddies, they'll invite me, and I'm like, I get invited for the social aspect, not because my game is good. I'm out here to make people laugh and have fun and just enjoy the 4 hours.
You're the guy everybody's making fun of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, nice shot, Kyle.
Absolutely.
Wow, you really screwed that one up.
I make them all feel better.
Kyle, this is a team event. You just failed us. You're like, no, I didn't.
Wait till we get to the putt. Oh, it's just putt.
You got to find your inner strength a different way.
That's hilarious.
You know, but like, you know, if you think about it, like if you get out there in the fairway, right, you've hit a great shot, you know, can you enjoy the presence that you're in at that moment, right? You know, thinking about that, right? I'm in that moment, like breathe a little bit, right? You know, and say, hey, I'm here, I'm enjoying my time. You know, it's another shot, but you know, it's a good day, right? Enjoy that, and enjoy what the God's given us all around us, and the camaraderie that we get with our friends.
So speaking to that though, real quick, I took my dad out, and my mom helped, like we all did, kind of a group present for him at 70 because he'd had some back issues, was finally healthy. Take him to Pebble Beach, and then they put you with other people to play your round. And there was this one gentleman that was with his wife, and she walked the whole 18 with us. And my dad, we're like, what are you, like, she's like, I love just spending time with him. And she goes, golf courses are always in the most beautiful areas. She's like, I just walk with my husband and take in God's beauty.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
And like, that was her whole thing. She's like, I come with him. I have no desire to play. I just get to hang out, and I get a nice, beautiful 4-hour walk outside. And I thought that was pretty cool, like soaking in the moment.
Soaking in the moment. And you think about family structure. My wife doesn't play, right? You know, but we all play in the family, and she'll just come out and walk. She just wants to be with us, enjoy the moment, right? You know,
watch you guys yell at each other.
No, well, it's kind of interesting. We've been having to teach her through college golf what a good shot and a great shot is. And sometimes she might get that look from my daughter, like that was not a great shot. And I look at her, I was like, no, that's not the word you use. You know, it was an okay putt, good try, something like that, right? You know, but words matter, right? You know, it's important when you think about things like that. So, but just a family unit, you know, from that perspective, is just like our bonding, and you know, having grown up with the kids in golf. I mean, like there's no pressure on anybody. We just go enjoy our time together, right?
That's so fun.
That's awesome. So let's talk about, you're in the fairway. Now it's the approach shot, you know, par 4 or whatever, or maybe another shot down the fairway if it's a par 5, and inevitably you don't hit it great. You just hit it good, or you hit whatever, and it lands in the rough, or it goes in a bunker, or hits a tree or a leaf, you know, or something,
or a leaf.
and it changes, which happened this weekend to you. You know, what is that? These are the challenging times in life, you know, where you have a child, and it's not easy, you know, or you have a job change, a new boss, you know, or God asks you to step on faith and start your own business, or whatever it is. You know, these are the challenges in life where you're just like, man, am I going to get out of this? Is there going to be scars? You know, is this going to be a time in my life where I will always remember how I responded here? Or is this going to be a time in my life where I never get out? You know, like how do you handle those?
What am I supposed to be learning right now?
That's probably the hardest. That's probably the hardest one for me. Is like if I'm super easy on the tee, in those other situations, it's like fear. Like in life, if you translate it, it's like the fear is like unsurmountable for me. I can't even figure it out. The fear of what's going to happen, like what's the next negative result of the bad outcome of the shot. I can't even, I don't do well with that one. I can't figure it out. Like I'm afraid for my kids to do this. I'm afraid for this to happen for our family. I just worry. I don't know why, whatever you want to call it.
I can relate to the worry.
We live in a life of fear. We know that, right? You know, so it's
fear, worry, whatever you call it.
But you think about it, it's protection, right? You know, we want our lives every single day to move forward in a kind of a easy way, easy days, right? You know, and enjoy it. We don't want drama. We don't want, you know, any traumatic experiences. And I think you start thinking about some of those things, right? You know, so I mean, as us, my wife and I have really not dealt with massive adversity, and we've been married for almost 25 years now, right? You know, so like some days I kind of like, okay, when is it coming, and how well prepared am I for that, right? You know, and just having strong faith through that journey, right? Whether it be with children or older parents or whatever that may be. That was the thing, like, you know, I've been on multiple golf courses where, like, you know, that first shot goes errant, and it's lost, right? It's lost, and you know, you start stressing out, you're playing with other people, you got to go back, you got to go hit another shot, and the next thing you know, you start off a round and it's bad.
Yep.
How do you recover on the next
I've never
hole,
been in that situation.
Yeah.
Like I just played in the U.S.
We ask, how many mulligans do we get?
I just played in the U.S. Mid-Am qualifier. It's the qualifier not too long ago. And the guy that we played with, he literally got to the 9th hole. And because he had hit a few errant balls and had a bad couple, he just walked off. I was like, well, why did you walk off? You didn't give yourself the chance even to recover.
That's right.
Like through the adversity of the bunkers, the fairways, the out of bounds is whatever, the bad breaks.
Yeah.
Because they're going to happen. It's a golf course. That's why watching golf in Europe is so fun, because you may hit it dead straight, but you don't know where the ball's going to go because the fairways are, you know, humpity bumpity down the hole. And I'm like, it's absolutely amazing that he just quit. That's why I think golf is so relatable to life, because no matter what the course is, no matter how perfect your day is, no matter how perfect your swing is, don't get me wrong, it may go perfect and you might shoot 65, and it might be the greatest day you ever had. But still, in reality, you're probably going to miss putts. You're probably going to have a bad shot. It's so crazy how relatable it is, and how,
I think for me,
I don't even know. I can't even describe the feeling.
When, you know, you hit into a bunker. I'm reading this book right now called If You Want to Walk on Water, You Got to Get Out of the Boat. The chapter I just finished this morning ended with, you know, how do you handle adversity? You know, when God throws something at you that requires faith, you know, do you run and hide? You know, is it fight or flight? He gave all these awesome stories about it. And, you know, I'm thinking about it as I'm walking, you know, and how I personally handle it. And it didn't really dawn on me, you know, I had my thoughts in my mind this morning, but then, you know, thinking through this, you know, and I already mentioned it, you know, earlier, like I feel like the pressure's off when you're in the hazard or a bunker. And it just hit me, you know, when I'm in the fairway, I think I did it. But when I'm in a hazard or a bunker or behind a tree, I'm like, well, God's got me. and it's weird how that works that way for me personally, where it's like, you know, when things get hard, I have no pressure, because I'm like, God allowed me to get into this situation. He's going to help me get out of it. But when things go good, I don't know why I have this instant reaction of like, I got myself here. I'll get myself out.
I'm going to screw this one up. Type thing.
Or like the pressure's on me to keep it going when I didn't do either. You know, God's allowing me to make decisions and to do whatever I'm doing to get me wherever I'm going. But without him, none of that actually happens. But I'm in a bunker, you know, or whatever. Like even we're going back to this weekend when we're playing, you know, thinking through it, I actually enjoy when it's a harder shot. And that's how I responded to the guy asking those questions this morning. Like, how do you handle adversity? I'm like, I hate adversity, but I actually feel better going through adversity than I do when things are really good. Because I think when really good, I feel like the stress is higher sometimes. You know, because it's like, what am I not worrying about that's going to happen to me? You know, at least when you're going through, you're like, all right, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to get through. You know, most of the stress is gone because you know exactly what you're dealing with.
You know the obstacle, you know the what's in your way.
When you don't know what's in your way, I feel like the anxiety is worse because you're like, what's coming? You know?
It's getting too good. Where's my blind spot? I'm missing something. Something's getting ready to happen.
It's kind of funny. Like I can't remember, one of the greatest golfers says you're probably going to have 7 bad strokes in a round. They're probably really good golfers, right?
Palmer,
I might have more than that, right? So like,
I might have a few more than that.
I might have 7 good hits.
Good hits, right? Yeah. So mentally,
In
like
7 rounds.
I said, and I run a pretty good sales team here in Charlotte, and I basically tell them, I was like, 80% of your day is going to be good. 20% is going to be bad. There's going to be some problems that we're going to have to face, and we're going to have to try to overcome those, right? That is relatable. Think about that. So, like, you get on a golf course. I know I'm going to have some bad shots. How do I recover from it? I had the opportunity to coach kids at Carmel Christian, and that's what I tell them. You're going to have bad shots. How do you get through? How do you think through a process of being able to get a good shot beyond that one and then work your way back through it, right? So, same day, 80% good.
Yep.
I'm going to have problems today. I know that. There's going to be 20%. I'm going to attack them, and I'm going to get through them.
I would flip that completely upside down and say, as a parent, it's probably not even 80-20. 80% of what you deal with is just hard and stressful and like, why am I doing this? And then there's 20% where you're like, man, that interaction, that conversation, whatever it was, and I can list 100, and I'm sure you guys can too. That's where you're like, there's the joy of parenting. And even in business, 20% of what you do is 80% of your revenue, or 80% of what you do is only 20%. So, I love how you're saying it. I would just be a little bit more on the other side of like, sifting through life, 80% of, whatever percent, a super healthy percentage. It just sucks.
Yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. It's not easy. It's out of the rough. It's in the bunker.
Yep.
It's like this, but it makes the 20% worth it.
Yeah.
Well, that's my golf game. Honestly, there'll be a handful of shots, legitimately, probably 4 to 5. And I'm like, all right, that's why I'm out here. That's why I'll come and play one more time.
Because it coming back, baby.
It hits so sweet. Even if it's a chip or something, and it just gets it really close to the hole. It's like,
well, the first 2 holes
I'm coming back.
The first 2 holes on Saturday when we went to play, every shot straight down the middle for me, right on the green, putting for birdie or putting for par, whatever it was. And I was like, after the second hole, I was like, this game's easy. I was like, I've accomplished everything in golf. That I'm making jokes, because we just had a good time. I don't think I putted another birdie, or I didn't even care. It was it was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't make the good happen. I'm not necessarily making the bad happen. It's just happening to me.
You're like, I didn't do that.
No.
So you have to tell us, what course did y'all play?
We just played at Rain Tree.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I'll go back to that adversity for one quick second and tell you a story that makes me think about Alec and parenting. So, or even just golf in general, but, golf is so much practice, repetition. Parenting, not quite the same thing.
No.
First time kids, being first time parents, being, the whole 9 yards, like, what do you do sometimes? Well, I'll relate it back to Alec in golf. So proud of him when he was a young little dude. Even though we were going through golf and he was practicing and he was learning, we were in a little U.S. kids tournament. We're standing there. Both of these 2 balls are within 10 yards of each other, us and another kid. Alec goes first. We walk up. I give him the yardage to the hole, and there's a giant bunker in front of the green, and he hits it. And he puts it right on the green. I don't remember how close, whatever. We walk to the kid's ball. We're standing there waiting, watching. The first thing out of the dad's mouth is, don't hit it in the bunker. Like, he almost set him up for the adversity he was facing. And sure enough, the kid hit it in the bunker.
That's right.
Now, I'm not saying that, the repetition, all that there, but the adversity that you faced was the dad already put it in his mind, like, hey, don't hit it there.
Yeah.
Like in your brain automatically, the kid's brain automatically went there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like, it's crazy to think that how the repetition's there, but the outcome always isn't there. But if you do all the steps, hopefully the outcome will be the right outcome.
Golf is, so I want to go to the next thing, but it is so funny how golf is that way. When you're like, okay, the one thing I don't want to do is X. You go up to the ball and you're going to shoot. And that's
the first thought.
Don't
top
like
this
80%,
ball.
80% of the
first
time,
thought in your brain.
that is exactly what's going to happen. Just follow through whatever you're thinking in your head. And you're like, okay, but no matter what, don't do. And then all of a sudden, that is exactly what happens. You're like, what the heck?
Hey, Scotty, how did you shank that ball?
That was such a great response. All right, let's talk about putting, and let's talk about greens and regulation. So greens and regulation, it's like, hey, I'm gonna, however many shots it took you to get there, whether it's par 3, 4, 5, you're on the green and you get a chance to score well, and then you got this putt. So in life, this would probably be those times when things are going really well. whether it was things that you're doing or just God's blessing, everything is just lining up. I got this promotion, this promotion, this promotion. Things are great. And now I got an opportunity for another one, and that's kind of a green in regulation. There are those other sides of the things where it's like, this one bad, this one bad, this one bad. I was supposed to be on in 4 and I think I'm on my 9th stroke, and I'm still not on the green yet. Or there's those times when I've seen it happen. I've done it to me where you've hit over the green, over the green, over the, and
military golf.
Yeah.
Left, right.
And you're like, how can I not land it right here? And, those times in your life where it just isn't working out so that God is going to grow you, stretch you. So the next time, the next hole or whatever, where things are better, how do you handle those situations, both of them?
How I handle them and how I want to handle them might be very different.
True.
I think I want to handle those moments when it's going well with a heart of gratitude and like, it's not about me. Like, thank you for blessing through this, especially like with kids. It's a whole community who helps raise your kids. Grateful for good teachers and friends that are pouring into them. So it's not always just Brooke and I who are reaping the benefits of behavior or whatever it may be. But I think trying to have that posture of gratitude of like, okay, this was good, but we got to move to the next one still. Got to keep moving. And then the tough ones, man, sometimes it's just easier to pick it up and
start fresh next hole.
We'll start over tomorrow.
The interesting thing is that, if we talk golf specifically, that the score is not indicative of the whole entire round. So the 9 is not necessarily the outcome of the whole round. If you had a 9 on one hole, that's not, that doesn't describe every hole that you play or every shot
bad day, right?
Yeah.
That bad meeting. We got to move to the next one.
You got to move to the next one. That's right.
So I think it's interesting that, you can't define one hole or not one hole with a snowman, let's call it, versus that you had 4 holes in a row that were par.
But that one hole tends to make the rest of your game better.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes the worse the struggle, the better the reaction, the next time, until you get so far away from that one that you're like, okay, God's got to bring you through it again because you forgot. When we you weren't there. When we were in Hawaii playing golf this summer, my favorite hole, I hadn't lost the ball all day. I think we're on the back 9, I don't know, 13.
Success.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in Hawaii, where things are crazy, it's it was the nicest course on the island we were on, this course we were playing. And on this hole, I lost 4 golf balls. And it was my favorite hole. I laughed so hard that I will always remember that one hole, although I don't remember the whole number, but I remember going off into going off a cliff, hitting in the water was on a different hole, and somehow my ball went into that, and we were joking about it. Yeah. And the guy Kevin, he was there with me. He's like, well, just make sure you don't hit the water, because there's no way you would ever hit the water. It was like in a completely other, and my ball went into the water. It was so funny.
What water? I found it.
Yeah, well, but the point I'm making here is, when you take struggle and you take joy, like it changes everything.
Sure.
And when you can have joy in the journey, have joy in the struggle, like one of my friends, just has in the process of beating cancer, it's in remission. His joy level, and he'll be very honest with you. He's like, in the quiet moments, he's like, my spouse will see it. There's been a lot of struggle. There's been some tears. There's been this. But when he's around us, he's just Mr. Comedian, and you see the joy, and he goes, that's my coping. And he's like, but the coping is putting joy in my heart through a circumstance that robs my joy.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't know, joy changes everything. Hope changes everything. Yeah. And when you can bring that into a bad situation, it helps you get through it.
Yeah. I think, Brian even kind of talked about focusing on positive and mindset and things like that. But for 4 years, we went through this journey of college golf, right? And the girls would always come off the course and start, what'd you shoot? How'd you play? All that stuff. And, we as parents would just sit down and unpack it and say, why are we focusing on that one bad hole? when there were 17 really good ones, right?
Yeah.
Let's shift a little bit and they dwell on the negative and we want to dwell on the positive, right? And then you go back day 2, right? And how do you overcome that day 2? So, okay, you had a double or a triple on that hole. We need to make sure we're a little bit more intentional. Let's focus on that hole and let's see if we can get 1 stroke better, 2 strokes better, right? And just get better every day, right? And that's really what golf is, right? If you think about it, let's get better every day, get better every round, and just be intentional about it. So,
It's kind of what God calls us to do: get better every day, right?
Yeah.
He knows we're not going to be perfect. He knows life isn't perfect, but he just calls us to get a little better every day.
Yeah, and we're called to be the light, right? So let's be the light. Let's be positive. Let's focus on those things and not dwell so much in the negative.
It is interesting. Like, why is that whenever you walk off? Like, it's the shots that you missed that you could have had.
Yeah.
I should have done this. I should have done that. Instead of the, man, did you see that one? I put this hole together. Like, why is it about golf?
What, do you think about the negative shots when you walk off?
I don't think about any of the shots, really.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there are definitely some that I'm like, man, I really beat that one up.
Yeah.
But for me, I get so few great shots that I feel like
but if you
I probably am like, I had a great one on that one. But my buddies, like I have one friend, I love him dearly, but he takes golf really serious. I mean, he's always scoring it.
Yeah.
And it never fails. Whether we're hanging out afterwards or driving back, he's dissecting the holes he screwed up on instead of the holes that maybe he overperformed on. Yeah. And like, hey, I really saved myself on this shot.
It's interesting
or
how
missed a 30
people
footer
are.
for birdie.
Yes. Yeah. If I did, I'm like, okay.
I'm the other side. I'm like, man, the second shot on 7, or the putt I made on 2, or the drive out of the gate. I'll focus on those all day long.
And that's me, just because that's why I come, is to get those 5 or 6 really good shots.
When I talked to Steph about us golfing, all I mentioned was how fun it was and how the first 2 holes were great, and then didn't matter after that. And it was. I didn't tell her anything that was bad. Yeah, I had a great time. And then I sent those videos.
Like we made a fun video for
on the 9th hole. Yeah. My oldest son, has had an issue in the past of losing his temper when things don't go well.
That's mostly all golfers in general.
Yeah. So we made some really funny golf, video at the end where I just lost my temper, totally planned, where I just throw my club, and, whatever. And then, to come to find out the shot wasn't even that bad.
Yeah.
Because that's how golfers are. You're like, oh man, he hit way right. And you're like, it's 12 feet from the pin.
Yeah.
Like, how the heck are you upset?
Way right. It's only like in the rough.
Right. Right.
Whatever. It's not that bad.
You can still putt that, bro.
I'm like, if I can hit it, that's a great shot.
I'm still in play.
I was going to mention one thing that's cool. I think in the talking about the struggle of what golf is and like struggle of what parenting and the joy that you mentioned. It's like the struggle of parenting sometimes is so challenging when you're in the moment. I know Christina and I, we went through it with our oldest Alec, who's really competitive golfer, really good golfer. Yeah. But all those moments where he's like, I hate golf, and I hate this, and I hate that, and I hate this, and I don't want to do that, I do want to do this.
That's hormones.
But kids, and then like the parenting and the encouragement, the struggle, and then seeing joy on the flip side where he still does things, and he's still active, and he keeps going. And then this year, had a really good opportunity, played on the varsity team, and he did really well in states. But after that first day, I remember Christina and I were flying back from a little anniversary trip, and seeing where he was at in his score and hearing the notes from the coach, like that joy, it's like you remember the struggle, but the joy on the outcome of seeing him do so well and thrive.
Awesome.
It's just a heart-changing thing in a perspective. It's that 20% thing,
The sport is so relatable to business and life.
It is.
Being able to help these kids grow.
Honesty,
and again,
truth.
They may not understand it today, right? Sometimes we don't understand it today, but down the road, now I see it. I understand it, right? And just have the privilege to be able to do this, amongst family and friends to help each other.
You meet so many amazing people too on the golf course.
Yeah.
And they all have stories, and we all have the same challenges, and we all have the same thing, like first learning how to play.
Yeah.
And how bad were we? And then, where we're at today.
Yes,
It's just crazy.
So let's end the show on an inspirational note. Let's talk about the 19th hole. The 19th hole in this regard is just going to be reflections and thinking back over the things you did well or the things that you didn't do well that taught you a ton. Mm-hmm. What would be something that you'd love to share that's been a life lessons that you've learned or something that's really impacted you that could impact somebody else?
I think for me, in any kid that is involved in travel sports, right? You're basically taking a lot of time away from what you have going on at home or what you have going on at weekends. Our goal was always to intertwine everything that we believed in, whether we were traveling or not. It didn't really matter. So there would be some Sundays that we're going to miss church and whatnot, but we'd intertwine everything into that. So we didn't deviate from that, and helping them understand through that whole process that it's joyful to be out. It's joyful to spend time with you. The bond and the relationship that we can grow together means a lot when they get older, right? But we're not going to lose our faith. That's going to be the most important thing through this, right? And then we have desires, and then we have goals, and we have plans associated with that. Some will come together and some won't. There's going to be a lot of stresses. There's going to be a lot of tears. There's going to be a lot of joy, right? As my kids have gotten older now, so like I've got one that's just graduated college. I got one that's a sophomore in college. These stories become real, right? Because now we're really pouring into them, say, remember that time. Remember that situation, I remember that. Well, take that strength that you may have accumulated through that situation, now bring it to your next level of life, your next journey of life, right? We've got one going to grad school for a couple of years, and there's been some challenges already, but it's hard, right? And it's your commitment to what you want to do in life, right? So think of it from that. And my resignation with that is like, hey, listen, you played college golf and you majored in health sciences. You're just going to school now. Think about that. Like your day is just one thing. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I don't have to worry about 5:30 workouts anymore, and travel schedule and things of that nature. So like you could be dedicated and just keep that strength with you.
What about you guys?
For me, because it's so much of how I play golf. It's the journey. It's the time out there. You're gonna have some bad shots. You're gonna have days when you hit the great shot and it still lands in someone else's divot. They didn't repair, and it's nothing you did wrong, but it's just there, but just remember who's in control and enjoy it for what it is. You're going to get through it. There's going to be another round. There's going to be another hit, and just try to do the best you can.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's an interesting one for me. There's so many crazy moments of just like impact that have shaped, and I don't know if it's all related to golf or like experiences in life that shaped how your golf experiences, but I think about just the honesty and the humility, like we talked about being humble and like being humble in the sport and being humble in life. The process of doing things over and over and over again, looking back, like in golf, sometimes you talk about if you go to the green and you look back, talking about your stories and your reflections and these things like come to life. Like if you look back at the hole and you're like, man, that hole looks a lot easier. Why did I make it so hard? Mm-hmm. But it's also so interesting that when you're on the green, you don't see that.
Right.
But you then feel the joy of whatever the score was. Mm-hmm. You can just tie it back to so many things about parenting. And if you look back, you like remember the moments, the hard, the challenging times. But then you look forward and you go, wow, look at the outcome. Look at the story. Mm-hmm. Look at what Kelly did. Mm-hmm. I was so joyed to go to his house at Pinehurst when I got to go to the U.S. Open, and Evan and all the other boys just, like they got this little decorative wall for her that's just, and it's family stuff in there too, but it's just so cool to see that little part of, which was probably hard going through all of it, I'm assuming. Yeah. But to see that little kind of, adornment to her and all the little achievements in the events, it was super cool.
Some Ebenezer's,
super cool.
Right? When there's tough times. Yeah. Remember back what it took to get here.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And you have to make sure that it's known, right? That's right. The other thing when we circle back on the 19th hole, this bonding thing, right? We've had the pleasure of being able to get interconnected here, right? But I've played with your children. And I've had a joy being able to do that, right? Yeah. My son's had the opportunity to play with them as well, right? My daughter's been involved in the children's lives, and it's been cool to be able to see that, how it just all kind of wraps around,
It's awesome.
Good. I think one of the things that's been super cool too is being able to give back a little bit too in golf, not only to like, for example, Evan and Shane and Reed, but then to the school and to the golf environment to give it back somehow. And watching Evan go through some of these moments where you knew you were at in life, or you watch other people go through, to see that and to see the shortened time window for him, because he's gotten from zero to pretty okay, pretty good, good. Making himself around the course. That's just an amazing experience to see back. Like just those little nuggets that are hopefully helping him, and it's crazy. You watch kids go like, oh, I get a mulligan, or I get a redo. Like, whoa, wait a minute. You technically don't. Right. But you learn, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to play it this way for real, because I'm going to keep scoring. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to get better. So it's been really cool to see that.
This
so
is
that stuff
awesome.
happen.
So the only thing I would add on to that is just golf is a game.
It's a game.
We're
Remember
using
that.
we're using golf as a game. We're relating it to life, and life isn't a game. And I love the relationship because it puts it in perspective of why and the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, when I'm on a sideline watching my kids or I'm parenting, it's not the same type of game that golf is, but there's perspective around it. There's purpose around my reaction. And thank God I get do-overs, I get mulligans, and sometimes I get it right. And a whole lot more times I get it wrong, but I grow every time, and I'm excited to get my club again and go back out, But the reality is, we are fortunate to not have to live alone, and we have we have good families around us. We have a Savior who loves us, and I don't know. This has just been a very fun discussion for me. I think we went way longer than normal.
I'm glad God gives us more
have to read
mulligans than my friends do whenever I play golf. That's for sure.
That's true.
So this has been great, guys.
I do got to read this book, or this little one quick.
The whole book?
Okay.
No,
Wow.
not the whole book.
Yeah.
It's super old. It's not even in print anymore.
But it's a great book.
But it's actually a really good book.
book.
I don't-
Oh yeah. I know.
It's super old though.
Yeah.
I tried to get it for the golf team. Couldn't get it. It was a chore.
Yeah.
But anyways, I got to read this one cool thing. It says, the game of golf is a game of accepting failure or accepting imperfection, or realizing that the perfect game never has been played, never will be played, or ever could be played. So it's like the same thing about life. It's not perfect. It's got hurdles. Hopefully God loves us. Recognize your mistakes.
Yeah.
We get our do-overs.
Yeah.
Hopefully do it right next time.
Well, guys, this has been absolutely awesome. Such a fun show today.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks
thanks.
for hosting. Yeah.
Good time. Thanks, gents.